Do one last mic check for everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We all good? 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing, testing.
Những hình ảnh quý vị đang xem trên màn hình được truyền hình trực tiếp từ Moreno Valley của quận Riverside, Hoa Kỳ. Nơi đây vào đúng 11 giờ sáng nay sẽ có buổi họp báo trước rất nhiều cơ quan truyền thông. Cụ thể có khoảng trên dưới 40 hãng thông tấn lớn nhỏ của thế giới đang có mặt ở đây, và Nửa Vòng Trái TV là kênh truyền thông tiếng Việt duy nhất hiện đang có mặt ở buổi họp báo này. Chỉ trong vòng ít phút nữa thì cuộc họp báo sẽ diễn ra. Như quý vị đã được biết, đó là vào đúng 8 giờ 11 sáng nay theo giờ California, chuyến bay chở 201 người từ tâm dịch Vũ Hán của Trung Quốc, nơi đang có dịch coronavirus hay còn gọi là cúm Vũ Hán bùng phát, thì một chuyến bay đã rời khỏi Vũ Hán và đưa 201 người từ Vũ Hán để mà quay trở lại Mỹ. Một chuyến bay đặc biệt. Tuy nhiên thì ban đầu Bộ Ngoại giao Hoa Kỳ thông báo đưa ra con số lên tới 240 người. Tuy nhiên đến giờ phút những người lên máy bay để quay trở về Hoa Kỳ thì con số chỉ có 201 người mà thôi. Chúng ta vẫn chưa biết được lý do vì sao. Chắc chắn trong thông tin của phía Hoa Kỳ đưa ra trong vài giờ nữa cũng như là trong ngày hôm nay sẽ có những thông tin đó. Cụ thể thì chuyến bay rời khỏi Vũ Hán và đến Alaska để mà có thể tích nhiên liệu trước khi về California. Tuy nhiên ban đầu phía Hoa Kỳ đưa ra thì máy bay sẽ đáp xuống sân bay dân sự quốc tế Ontario, cũng nằm ở tại tiểu bang California, cách San Diego khoảng chừng 1 giờ 15 phút lái xe, và cũng cách bao xa tương tự so với Lido Sài Gòn. Tuy nhiên thì những giờ phút cuối cùng thì Hoa Kỳ đã quyết định thay đổi cái lịch trình, là thay vì đến sân bay quốc tế Ontario thì máy bay sẽ đáp xuống sân bay quân sự March Air Reserve Base ở tại Moreno Valley của quận Riverside, cách đó khoảng chừng 40 phút lái xe. Và sáng nay thì chúng tôi cũng đã có mặt ở tại March Air Reserve Base để mà có thể quay được cảnh máy bay chở 201 người đáp xuống sân bay quân sự này. Và giờ đây thì tất cả những cơ quan truyền thông, ngay cả là những cơ quan truyền thông AP, AFP, Reuters, cũng như là những hãng truyền thông của Phoenix, Hồng Kông và những hãng truyền thông của Pháp cũng đang có mặt ở đây, cùng với tất cả những cơ quan truyền thông lớn nhỏ tại Hoa Kỳ để chuẩn bị dự cuộc họp báo này. Chắc chắn rất nhiều thông tin từ phía những người đứng đầu của trung tâm y tế của Riverside, hay còn gọi là Riverside University Health and System Medical Center, nơi diễn ra cuộc họp báo này. Chúng ta sẽ đợi thêm những thông tin và chi tiết từ bên phía những người chủ trì của cuộc họp báo này đưa ra, những thông tin mà rất nhiều người cũng như là hãng thông tấn lớn nhỏ đang chờ đợi. Xin quý vị đợi trong ít phút trước khi mà chúng ta sẽ chứng kiến cuộc họp báo này. Và thêm một cái thông tin nữa chúng tôi muốn chia sẻ đến quý vị, đó là những hành khách, cụ thể là 201 hành khách từ Vũ Hán trở về Hoa Kỳ lần này thì họ đã trải qua những cái bước như sau. Đầu tiên, họ đã trải qua một cái công đoạn kiểm tra y tế trước khi họ bước lên máy bay rời khỏi Vũ Hán. Đó là lần thứ nhất. Sau đó, máy bay của hãng hàng không Calita đáp xuống để tiếp nhiên liệu ở tại Anchorage, tiểu bang Alaska của Hoa Kỳ. Thì một lần nữa, những người này lại được những cơ quan y tế tiếp tục làm những cái biện pháp để mà kiểm tra y tế thêm một lần nữa. Đó là lần thứ hai. Và sau khi xin lỗi quý vị, là sau khi họ lên máy bay từ Vũ Hán thì cũng đã được kiểm tra một lần nữa. Và đến Alaska thì lần thứ ba, những cơ quan y tế đã kiểm tra những người này. Sau đó thì cho đến thời điểm hiện tại, những thông tin mà bên phía quận hạt Riverside đưa ra, đó là sau khi máy bay đáp xuống sân bay Mott Air Resort Bay của thành phố Moreno Valley của quận Riverside thì những người này sẽ được kiểm tra y tế một lần nữa, và những người này phải được chắc chắn kiểm tra là họ sẽ không có bị nhiễm virus corona, hay còn gọi là cúm Vũ Hán, trước khi họ có thể ra khỏi nơi đây để mà về nhà an toàn. Và những người bên phía của quận hạt Riverside cho biết là họ muốn chắc chắn những người này sẽ không có mang lại nguy hiểm cho bất kỳ ai. Nếu như mà những người này bị nhiễm virus corona thì họ cũng sẽ không được về nhà mà phải bị cách ly. Đó là những thông tin mà chúng tôi nhận được từ bên phía của thành phố Moreno Valley của quận hạt Riverside vừa đưa ra. Bây giờ thì chúng ta sẽ chờ đợi, chỉ còn 3 phút nữa thôi thì cuộc họp báo sẽ được bắt đầu. Chắc chắn sẽ có nhiều thông tin mà chúng ta đang muốn biết sẽ được bên phía những người đứng đầu của Riverside University Health and System Medical Center đưa ra, nơi sẽ có chủ trì cuộc họp báo sau khi chuyến bay chở 201 người từ Vũ Hán, tâm dịch của cúm Vũ Hán, trở lại Hoa Kỳ ngày hôm nay vào lúc 8 giờ 11 sáng ngày 29 tháng 1, 2020.
Good morning. My name is Jose Arbayo. I'm Public Information Specialist for the Department of Public Health, Riverside County. Thank you very much for coming today. I'm hoping I'm going to give you a few rundown on what we're going to be doing. We're going to have a series of speakers from the CDC, the County of Riverside, and a Spanish language physician for our Spanish language media. And I'm also going to tell you a little bit about how we want to handle the Q&A. There'll be a Q&A afterwards. We have a couple of people with microphones, and I know some of you might not like this, but we really want the people to hear the questions. So if you don't mind, we're going to point the person out to have the question. If you can identify yourself, your organization, and ask the question. And that would really help.
It's my
And the microphones have already been tested, so you should be able to ask the question. Okay, with that said, we're here today to discuss the arrival of the plane that came from China. It arrived this morning at March Air Force Reserve Base. And I know there's a lot of concern, a lot of questions and anxiety in the community and in the country because of the illness. But the number one message that we have is that we're working together in a collaborative fashion. And I will introduce some of the speakers for today. Our first speaker will be Dr. Chris Brandon from the CDC, Dr. Cameron Kaiser, Riverside County Public Health Officer, V. Manuel Perez, Chairman of Riverside County Board of Supervisors, and then Supervisor Jeff Hewitt. We also have Adolfo Aguilera, who's a family physician here at Riverside University Health System Medical Center, and he will be providing highlights for our Spanish language media. Before any ado, Dr. Chris Braden.
Thank you, Jose, and thank you all for coming today. I know that this is, this infection that's happening in China is a concern for everybody. I first want to say that at CDC, we're here in order to support our state, local, and sister federal agencies. We work together seamlessly, we work together very hard in these last couple of days. And it's been a pleasure to work with, especially I think that the county and the Air Force Base has done a superb job in standing up really rapidly in order to receive our fellow citizens that we care so much about. So I wanted to also put this in a little bit of context. The coronavirus is spreading rapidly, we think, in China. We think it is appropriate that our citizens who are in the epicenter of that outbreak in Wuhan be repatriated home for their own safety. So we're here to ensure their safety and also to ensure the safety of those on the base, those in this community, and elsewhere in America. Having said that, we do think that the risk for the general communities in the United States from this infection is very low. The way we want to keep it that way is by doing our basic public health functions. We want to identify anybody who's ill. We want to isolate them so that they don't spread the infection to others. We want to identify any contacts that they've had while they're ill so that we can monitor them too. And that's the basis of what we do in public health for almost any infection, is certainly the basis for what we do in this instance. And that's what we're doing there with these patriots that come back to the United States at the Air Force Base now. So I'm going to stop there because I want to leave plenty of room for questions, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues here at the county.
Thank you very much, Dr. Braden. My name is Dr. Cameron Kaiser, C-A-M-E-R-O-N, Kaiser, K-A-I-S-E-R, just like the hospital. I'm the public health officer for the County of Riverside. I'm going to keep my comments brief because, as you hear, I have about half a voice left, and no, it doesn't have anything to do with why you're here today. One thing, though, that's particularly important that we want to keep in mind is there's a lot of concerns about this flight landing. And people have reasonably asked the question, why? They're scared, you're scared. We understand that. There's a lot about this virus that we don't know. But something that we also have to keep in mind is these folks need to come home. And in the hours of coordination calls and scheduling that we did last night to help stand up this response, one thing to me is perfectly clear. We've got a good perimeter out there to make sure that the public and those individuals stay safe. We have an appropriate plan in place for dealing with the situation that we have at hand, and we have good people on the ground to actually implement that plan. And I think most of all, we need to keep in mind that these people have done their job. And if there is an unthinkable event and we need to transport somebody to the hospital emergently, we can take every available precaution to make sure the public remains safe. As my colleague has pointed out, the risk to the public remains low, and we aim to keep it that way. These people have done their job, and on behalf of the County of Riverside, the Riverside University Health System, the City of Moreno Valley, and our partners in the Emergency Management Department, we want to say it's time for us to do ours. With that, I will hand it over to my esteemed bosses, the Board of Supervisors, and our Chairman of the Board of Supervisors, V. Manuel Perez.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming here today. I'm Riverside County Supervisor Victor Manuel Perez, and as Chairman of the Board of Supervisors, there is nothing that is more important to me, to my colleagues, than protecting the health and well-being of the residents of Riverside County. We have seen the devastating impact of the coronavirus on the people of China, particularly in the city of Wuhan, where thousands of cases have been reported. When I heard that the flight was coming to March Air Reserve Base, my first thought was about the passengers on the plane. American citizens, many of whom were simply doing their jobs. Then my attention turned to those who live near the base, which is located only a few miles from this medical facility. How would we ensure that those residents would be protected as well? It was at that point I recalled the past collaborative work of our departments, like public health and emergency management, which has worked with partners during various incidents. My anxiety was eased as I was briefed about the planning for this event and realized the health and well-being of the passengers and nearby residents would be protected. It is that collaboration between Riverside County, state and federal officials that has led to the successful repatriation of the 200+ passengers. Once again, Riverside County has shown that it can rise to the challenge. And well done, and I want to thank the County of Riverside, our departments, our staff, and as well the CDC, and I want to turn it over here to Supervisor Hewitt.
Thank you, Chairman Perez. Thank you for everyone for being here today.
Cell phones, please.
As we've shared, the safety and security of our residents is our top priority. While we realize that many people may be nervous right now, understand that we are all committed to your safety and are taking all precautions to ensure both the passengers and our residents are safe. Here in Riverside County, we are proud to have March Air Reserve Base in our backyard, where we have the necessary resources to get this job done. As you can see, this is a very large response that involves many federal, state, and county agencies. And we're proud to have this fight land here, where we can welcome our U.S. citizens back home after a long, arduous flight and make sure they're well before they head back to their homes. Now I'll hand the mic back over to Jose for questions. Thank you.
I think we do have one last speaker who's going to, Dr. Aguilera. Are you? Yes, for our Spanish language media, Dr. Adolfo Aguilera, family physician here at Riverside University Health System Medical Center.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Adolfo Aguilera y soy un doctor general trabajando para el condado de Riverside. Para resumir los puntos que se han comentado, no sabemos mucho del virus ahorita. Sabemos que mucho de este virus, o la información para el virus no se sabe, pero estamos preparados para la gente que va a venir al condado. Y no nomás eso, pero estamos preparados y entendemos que ustedes están asustados, pero tenemos el personal y la capacidad de lidiar en este momento. Gracias.
And okay, I appreciate it, those with the microphones, if we can be ready. And I please indulge me on this because it's we like to have all the questions answered and understood. Tony.
Yeah, I have a general question for anyone who can answer it. Why was the plane diverted at the last second or last minute from Ontario International to the military base?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And this has been a rapidly changing situation and the way that we handle it. And the decisions, frankly, have been made at a high level in government. But I think the most important factor that was taken into consideration is the comfort of these passengers to staying, coming from this area. They have their own traumas, very long flight, and they could be at the base for up to 2 weeks. So we think that the base is probably the most comfortable accommodation that we could find for them.
Yes, down here.
Hey, Ian Loaded, Wall Street Journal. Can you explain the process? Can you please explain the process for screening passengers in terms of how long they might be held there, whether they'll be quarantined, in what way, and when they'll be allowed to go home?
So I'm going to turn to my colleague, Captain Knight. She's the lead of the CDC team on the ground that has been developing this protocol.
Thank you, Dr. Braden. So the screening process that has been utilized for the passengers on the plane began before they boarded the plane in Wuhan, China. The first step in the process was screening by the government of China officials at the airport as a pre-boarding measure. That was followed by a second pre-boarding screening by our State Department medical specialists. After boarding the plane, they had medical physicians from State Department on the plane with them throughout the flight, able to monitor them and address any issues or concerns that they had. The plane first landed in Anchorage, Alaska, where CDC's quarantine station team met the plane, boarded the plane, disembarked the passengers, and did yet another screening process. During the course of these screening processes, we check for symptoms that would be concerning of the novel coronavirus, including fever, cough, and other respiratory symptoms.
I just have one mic now.
We also check for factors that would make us consider an individual high risk. Exposure to someone who had known coronavirus in Wuhan, a close contact to someone living with or cohabitating with someone who had a death or pneumonia or known coronavirus. Also consider high risk as healthcare workers that could have had an exposure. So if at any point in time we have concern from those screening questions and the further evaluation that is done, then the individual would not be allowed to board the plane again and would be evaluated on site. Upon arrival here, we are doing the exact same process at the location at the March Air Force Base, and we are in the middle of that process going through the same screening questionnaire and evaluation.
Did you have any high-risk individuals on the flight?
So from the flight in Anchorage, when we assessed for high-risk individuals by the team there were no individuals that responded to the questions indicating that they were high risk. We're reassessing that now.
Over here, please.
Is this a quarantine, and if not, what not? Are they allowed to leave, and what is the time frame for this?
So these people are not under federal quarantine orders. I've personally talked to them when they were disembarking and after they went through their first screening checks. They were happy to be here. They were very much cooperative with the questions, and also when I talked to them about their willingness to stay to be fully evaluated over 3 days or so, all those that I talked to were very willing to do that. They wanted to know.
Như vậy là những người mà trở về từ chuyến bay này sẽ được giữ lại trong vòng 3 ngày để kiểm tra.
So, these are obviously all American citizens, many of them who work for the State Department in the counselor's office, they are. I can just tell you that they were very happy to be here, and there was no indication that they wanted to.
Khi bên phía trung tâm y tế hỏi rằng họ có muốn ở lại đây để theo dõi không, thì đa số tất cả những người này đều vui vẻ và chấp nhận họ sẽ ở lại đây trong vòng 3 ngày để được kiểm tra.
We are going to monitor them for the full extent of their incubation period. We will do a full evaluation there, and everybody that I've talked to there has agreed to do that. If they were thereafter want to go on to their home state and hometown, we will pass on the information to the public health officials in that jurisdiction so that they can be actively monitored there for the remainder of their incubation period.
Originally, 240 people were supposed to be on board the flight, but then
Câu hỏi đang là tại sao 240 ban đầu thông báo nhưng mà chỉ có 201.
In Wuhan, there were the original manifest was, as you say, higher than the number of people who got on the plane. Number of people did not have the right documentation in order to be able to enter the United States. Some of them didn't show up for the flight, and our information is that there was one person who had fever who was not allowed to board.
Như vậy là trong số những 39 người không quay trở lại Hoa Kỳ, đó là những người không có đủ giấy tờ để mà đi lên chuyến bay đó, cũng như là có một số người không ra sân bay để mà đi về. Trong đó, trong 39 người đó có một người bị sốt, vì vậy bị giữ lại.
And flying those samples to CDC in Atlanta, doing the tests and getting the results back. We're going to be monitoring them twice a day with symptoms and fever checks. At the end of 3 days, we think we'll have enough information to know their status and their risk. And at that point, given that they have no indication of a high risk.
Những người hiện tại đang quay về trở lại Hoa Kỳ thì những người này sẽ được kiểm tra 2 lần một ngày và có những biện pháp để mà xem có bị nhiễm hay không trước khi họ ở đây 3 ngày có thể về nhà.
Active monitoring will be for a 14-day period.
In the back, please.
Let me just make sure I clarify to make sure I
Yeah.
understand. So you're going to keep you're asking them to stay for 3 days, but it could be a full 14-day period in which they could present symptoms in that time. But based on the first 3 days, you feel like you have enough information to know that they're probably okay.
Yeah, we'll be fully evaluating in that 3 days. No indication of any problems and so forth. They'll go on to their home.
Nguyên hỏi là vì sao chúng tôi nghe là phải cách ly và coi chừng những người này trong vòng 14 ngày mới có thể biết được là họ có nhiễm không. Nhưng mà ở đây thì chỉ có thì những người bên phía cơ nói rằng đủ là tự 3 ngày chúng tôi có thể được.
And are you going to ask them to remain in a secluded area until their incubation period is complete?
Yeah, so when we've done our entire evaluation, we think that that their status is low risk. Then they can travel, and again, when they arrive in the state where they're going, that state and local health department would be then responsible for monitoring them for the remainder of the 14 days.
So we've talked to passengers who said they've given nasal swabs or given blood tests. How long will it take to get those tests back to determine if they do in fact have the virus?
We think we can do that in the 72 hours.
In the meantime, where will you be holding these passengers?
So they're all going to be at the Air Force Base within the accommodation that's been identified for them.
Những người này sẽ được giữ ở đâu thì bên phía cơ quan y tế cho rằng họ cũng sẽ tiếp tục ở lại sân bay Mock Air Reserve Bay, sân bay quân sự nơi mà họ đáp xuống California.
Government workers? Are they tourists? And like, what part of the country are they from?
Yeah, American citizens. This plane was chartered in order to evacuate Department of State personnel working at the consulate in Wuhan, and because it's a large plane, other citizens could also be evacuated. Yeah, there are children, some as young as toddlers, I believe. I don't have the list of ages in front of me on any manifest, but of those I talked to, 1 month to teenagers, I'm told. So there are family units coming back as we would expect. And your other question was? About the employees on the base. Oh. Yeah, so one thing that was made very clear with the base commander was that there was to be no interaction between those people who are on the base, who work there, who are in the military, and these passengers. There is a cordon that is there that
Câu hỏi là những nhân viên ở tại sân bay quân sự này như thế nào, và quý vị có lo ngại sẽ tiếp xúc, những người này sẽ tiếp xúc với những người vừa trở về không? Thì người đứng đầu trong cuộc họp báo này cho biết là những nhân viên ở tại sân bay quân sự không hề có tiếp xúc.
Yeah. So you bring up a good point, and let me just say that we know about coronaviruses that have been identified in the past. Many of them are responsible for the common cold and are common. Some of them have emerged that we didn't know about before in the past couple of decades that are more severe. So SARS is a coronavirus, and of course you know that it was discovered and emerged in China again in the early 2000s. And then subsequently MERS, the Middle East respiratory syndrome virus, is a coronavirus. And so we have another novel coronavirus at that point that has gone on to cause severe illness in people. This virus is, again, new and novel. We didn't know about it infecting people before, but it is a coronavirus. We can extrapolate some from what we know about the other coronaviruses, including SARS and MERS, but we don't know a lot about this virus, about the severity of the illness, because we think probably many of the cases that were identified early were among severe illnesses, and so the severe proportion and the deaths may be high early on. We need to understand more about milder illnesses or even asymptomatic illnesses. In addition, we need to know more about when people become infectious. So those are things that we don't know. What we want to do is apply the public health principles that we know work. We've done that for Ebola, we've done that for SARS, we've done that for MERS. We've basically, those public health principles, those public health actions have stopped those outbreaks. There's no reason to believe it won't stop this one.
Tom, so for News Channel 3 Palm Springs, is it possible that there are people on board that are carrying the virus and to have that go undetected until they reach their final destination? And the second part of the question is, for people here on the ground, what would you tell us and others who might be concerned and what they can do to protect themselves and their families?
Right. So the reason why we want to do active monitoring for 14 days is in order to be able to determine if they may become ill at some time during that period of time. And then we can isolate those people so that they don't infect others. That's the basic public health premise of our actions. And that's what we intend to do for the entire 14 days, no matter where they are. And the other question was?
For those on the ground here across the country who might be concerned about picking up the virus from those who just arrived this morning,
Right.
what do you say to those folks in order to protect them?
Chúng tôi sẽ cố gắng thông dịch khi có thể, bởi vì không muốn làm phiền những người đồng nghiệp bên cạnh chúng tôi. Có khoảng 40 cơ quan truyền thông, mong quý vị thông cảm.
Confirmed cases in the United States. All of them were identified very early in their in their illness. They were isolated very early in their illness. We've identified the contacts for those people and are monitoring them. That's the basics I've been talking about. There's no indication that we have any transmission ongoing from those cases, and therefore the risk for people in the United States, we believe, is low.
Yes, over here. Mundo, thank you. I'll hold it if you don't mind. Okay, fine. Medical experts mentioned that the symptoms of the virus comes up after 2 weeks of infected. Why not keep it at 2 weeks in order for the whole state or country to be safe?
Yeah. So again, these people will be monitored for the entire 2 weeks of their illness. We will have the intensive assessment for these first 72 hours to make sure that nobody is ill now. That's what that is what we.
Những người này sẽ được kiểm tra trong vòng 3 ngày ở tại cái sân bay quân sự để mà chắc chắn họ không có bị nhiễm virus này trước khi họ được trả về nhà. Tuy nhiên, họ cũng sẽ theo dõi trong vòng 14 ngày kể từ ngày hôm nay.
So if somebody turns up positive, it depends on when their symptoms start, okay? And our whole evaluation of when the infection, could have been spread. We've been monitoring them all along the way. That evaluation we will do. It is possible if there is somebody who we think may have been infectious even on this flight, then we will take that into consideration as a contact for the rest of the people that are there.
And will they end up in this hospital? Where do they go?
No. Just because you're a contact doesn't mean you end up in the hospital.
But if you have it, are you going to end up here?
Yeah. So if somebody, any of these patients become ill, then we have a whole protocol that's worked out whereby they are transferred to this facility for further evaluation.
Some of the symptoms, it's not going to show like within 2 weeks. And you mentioned that you're going to monitor that, but can you give some more details about how monitor that? Because everyone, they have their daily activities and daily life, and how you monitor that every time that when they have the symptoms on them.
Yeah. So obviously when they're here, they're being, they're not mixing with other people in the community, whether that be on the base or otherwise. And so while we do this evaluation to make sure that none of them are actively infected, then, they're in a safe environment as far as the community is concerned, okay? When we talk about active monitoring, into the future and even when they leave and they go to their home state, usually that consists of at least once, often twice a day, for somebody from public health reaching out to say, do you have any of these symptoms? Tell me your temperature or I'm going to take your temperature. So twice a day, you're going to pick up something very early if somebody becomes ill.
Over in the corner. Go ahead.
Greetings. I have two-part question. Number one, there's rumors that are going around that this was a weaponized virus in the laboratory in Wuhan, and as everybody's still trying to figure out, why isn't this a federal mandatory quarantine?
So let me just talk about, a manufactured virus. I explained a little bit about coronaviruses before. We know about coronaviruses. They are around us. The ones that cause common colds are common, and we've known of ones that were novel at the time and cause severe disease. These viruses are not, as a family, are not new to us. This particular one is a little bit different than the others, and we have to find out how it behaves. The other question was, right. So what we do is we try and balance how to protect these people, how to respect their rights, how to be as least restrictive as possible, and still be very careful about the evaluation that they go under, so that everybody is safe. So this is a balance, and if we can do that without a federal quarantine order that restricts people and takes away their rights, that's what we will do. But we are very careful to make sure it's safe.
72 hours, is it possible that these people, if you see that they are not exhibiting any symptoms, that they will then get on a flight and go to their home state and could potentially still be sick, but you wouldn't know it until the end of the incubation period, the 14 days. In other words, they could potentially be...
Quý vị có lo ngại là những người này sau 3 ngày quý vị kiểm tra và không thấy khi mà họ ra khỏi cái sân bay sau 3 ngày đó, nhưng mà trong vòng 14 ngày thì họ lại bị phát bệnh, thì quý vị lo ngại không?
You know, people incubate the infection. While they're incubating, they're not sick and they're not contagious. They become ill and they then become contagious. If we can monitor people so that we can pick them up very early in their illness and isolate them, why then we can prevent transmission. That's the basic public health premise that we work by.
Okay. I just need, if you guys can give us a breakdown of the 201 passengers on the flight, would you characterize them all as American citizens? Do you have numbers as to how many were passengers coming from Wuhan, how many were workers? And then I also want to know that since it was a chartered flight from the CDC, I just want to confirm that no one had to pay for a ticket. This was completely an open invitation to come on this flight. How did it work?
So maybe to clarify the flight itself, the Department of State chartered the flight, and that is because of the situation in Wuhan. State Department put in place an ordered evacuation for their diplomats. So that is part of the protocol that exists within State Department when they reach certain trigger points within a country, whether it's war or whether it's an infectious disease outbreak. If they hit a certain trigger point, they will implement their protocol. By implementing that protocol, that also, because of you, as you heard earlier, that flight was large enough to accommodate more people than their State Department diplomats and their families. So State Department was able to offer seats on the plane as a service to other American citizens and their families who wanted to also depart Wuhan. As to the, I think you asked about the cost. I think that would be a question that you would have to ask State Department, but it was a service that was offered because they were able to provide it to the American citizens.
I'm sorry, one last question. I'm sorry, I just lost it. So you said it was chartered by the State Department to get everybody out of there. The 72-hour hold, would we be notified if anybody decides to leave that earlier?
Trong vòng 72 tiếng nếu ai mà muốn đi ra khỏi nơi sân bay đó sớm thì có được hay không?
There seem to be a lot of questions about that, and then I can turn back over to Dr. Braden as well. With the team that's on the ground, that's not just CDC's public health professionals. We have healthcare professionals from the county public health department that have joined us. We have health professionals from the hospital here. So Dr. Braden has talked about the monitoring process. That's an extremely important part of what the team is doing on the ground. The CDC team is doing a check for symptoms, including temperature, every 12 hours during this 72-hour period. At the same time, the hospital has provided a mobile healthcare unit, which is on site near the facility where the individuals are being housed. So if
những người này kiểm tra hai lần một ngày, cụ thể là cứ 12 tiếng là sẽ có một lần kiểm tra.
If someone develops a fever during the middle of the night and it's in between their 12-hour temperature checks, they have a number to call for the physician that is on site during the night to come and evaluate them. So it's truly a collaboration across the span of public health professionals and clinical health professionals from the federal to the state to the county and the hospital level.
So you're operating under the impression that everyone will stay for those 3 days. If anyone leaves before, right now they're saying that they'll stay for the 3 days, but if anyone leaves before, will we be notified and how would that be handled?
So another thing that Dr. Braden talked about is that we are also offering laboratory testing to these individuals. It is our desire to make sure that we can turn around those laboratory results as quickly as possible, but there are a lot of logistics involved in that on this side as well as on the CDC Atlanta side. The CDC Atlanta lab is the only laboratory in the country that is able to do this testing for the novel coronavirus. And so we will get the samples to that lab as quickly as possible. If we're able to do that and get results in under 72 hours, and those results are negative, that's a conversation that we need to have across CDC, across our local counterparts, with the individual. If they're asymptomatic, their results are negative, are we all comfortable with having them go home before that 72 hours, or do we wait that 72 hours? It's a close collaboration with all of us to make sure that we're taking all of the important information into account. And as Dr. Braden said, that even with that negative result, we will still be monitoring through our state and local health departments those individuals for the full 14 days.
Nếu như những người nào muốn đi ra về trước 3 ngày thì chúng tôi cũng sẽ kiểm tra và sẽ nói chuyện cũng như sẽ xem xét từng trường hợp một.
A quarantine would be forced. As Dr. Braden said, this 72-hour period, we are respecting the rights of them as individuals, and we are doing that in a way that protects their health, the health of the uniformed service members that are on that base, and the health of the community around them.
So that means they can in fact leave for 72 hours?
It's totally voluntary. Just you refer to it as a hold. You're saying it's not quarantine. If it's a hold, it doesn't sound voluntary. What exactly is this?
Can they leave, yes or no?
They can leave, however, they are sitting in the middle of a military base. Any discussion
Những người này sẽ ở tại một cái nơi ở giữa của sân bay quân đội. Vì vậy không dễ dàng để mà cho họ rời đi trong vòng 3 ngày này, họ sẽ được kiểm tra rất là kỹ càng. Dường như là những người đứng đầu trong cuộc họp báo này cũng bất ngờ trước câu hỏi là nếu như những người đang bị giữ lại mà muốn rời khỏi sân bay trong vòng 3 ngày thì có được hay không, thì họ cũng dường như là những câu trả lời của họ cũng gây ra rất nhiều hoang mang cho các báo chí.
That is where all of the partners that you see here in front of you, as well as the other partners that are engaged in this mission, would come together and talk about what needs to be done. And this would be discussed up to the highest levels within the U.S. government as well. So we would ensure that we are making the right decision for the American people.
What is the breakdown of cities where these people are from, and are they going to leave on charter flights, public flights, and will the people on board those flights be notified that there's someone who just came from Wuhan on board? I mean, what are their rights? What are the people outside their rights? If they can leave before the 2 weeks when you guys don't even know. China health officials have said it's spread before there's even symptoms.
I can tell this is causing a lot of confusion. Let me try and bring hopefully some assurances to what we can do, what we will do. If we think that a person is a danger to the community, we can institute an individual quarantine for that person, and we will. Not only will we, but if it's in this county, then the local county health officer likely will do the same. So this is something, is a judgment call about how risky this action is on the part of this person. If we think it's risky, then we have the tools to protect the public. and we will use them. If we don't think it's risky, and it's before the 72 hours, and we know that where they're going, they have a fairly short flight, they're going to be met at where they're going to be in the jurisdiction where they're going. The public health is fully engaged. They're going to be monitored. We think that we can assure the protection in that way because monitoring will not stop.
Could you just answer the question? Is there a breakdown of cities where the people will be flying? Is it a public flight? Will the passengers be notified?
So if they're allowed to fly, they're considered not infectious. They're not, and therefore those passengers would not be considered contacts to an infectious case.
Người đứng đầu cuộc họp báo này nói rằng là những người lên máy bay 201 người này quay về Mỹ là những người mà họ tin tưởng rằng không có bị dính con virus corona.
Yeah.
And that's what is scaring everyone. But it comes down to these blood tests too, right? The blood
Yeah.
tests are pretty definitive.
So we are, when I've talked to people, everybody wants to know their status. And it's for their own health, it's for the health of their family and so forth. That's what we would expect, all right? So this testing will help us determine their health in addition to ongoing monitoring and very detailed assessment of their contacts and risks.
So, but it sounds like to me that these are people that you feel like are going to be, you're counting on them to be good Americans, and if they feel like they have any symptoms, they won't do this. Either State Department employees or family members, right? So that's the reason why you feel like you don't need to put them in quarantine.
Well, but remember, if we feel like we must, we will.
But you're counting on them to be good Americans and just not rush out after just one day or something like
Right.
that, right? And then also my next question is, how do you treat this coronavirus, this novel one? Is it different than you would treat a cold or a flu? Is it something that you'd have to do special other than the way we would normally, convalesce?
So I'll put on my physician hat.
Yes, Dr.
Unlike flu, for instance, there's no vaccine for this virus, and we don't know of therapeutics that work, although that's something that we need to test. So some of the tools that we have in order to treat people we don't have for this virus at this point. I can tell you that many people are working hard at that right now. What we can do is we can support people in the normal way that we would to make sure that they're oxygenating properly, that their blood pressure is supported, and so forth, so that they can heal themselves. And in most instances, actually, people don't even actually require hospitalization. We've seen a lot of mild illnesses. For those that are severe illnesses, we can support them. Unfortunately, we've had 132 deaths around the world at this point.
As a physician, are you more concerned about this or the flu?
Depends on the flu. There are more flus that are more scary than this one.
Dr. Braden, my question is to the CDC is, obviously this is Wuhan. If this virus starts to grow in China, obviously there are other American personnel there. Does the CDC have plans in place to do similar evacuations of personnel in other consulate or embassies in China?
I would have to defer that question to the State Department.
Okay. Listen, thank you very much. Some of the participants up here will be available for stand-ups if they're needed. I did want to...
Vâng, quý vị, vừa rồi là toàn bộ cuộc họp báo ở tại trung tâm Riverside University Health System Medical Center, nơi chỉ cách sân bay Mort Air Reserve Base ở tại quận Riverside khoảng chừng 15 phút lái xe. Và nơi đó, sân bay đó cũng là nơi hiện tại đang giữ 201 người trở về từ Vũ Hán. Và những người này trong cuộc họp báo vừa cho biết là sẽ được giữ lại ở tại sân bay đó, có một cái khu vực cách ly riêng, kiểm tra thường xuyên những người này trong vòng 3 ngày, bởi vì họ tin tưởng rằng chỉ cần có 3 ngày họ sẽ biết được là những người này thật sự có bị nhiễm virus corona hay không. Bởi vì những người mà được lên máy bay trở về Mỹ thì người đứng đầu cuộc họp báo ngày hôm nay cũng đã cho biết là họ tin tưởng những người